You've been telling yourself that for a while now, and it sounds convincing. It feels like the right explanation, like if you just had more discipline, everything would finally click. But that's not what's actually happening, because if it were really a discipline problem, you wouldn't be able to start at all. And you do start. You've proven that. You've had days where you were focused, locked in, doing exactly what you said you were going to do. You've had moments where everything felt aligned, where you showed up without hesitation, where you followed through. That's not someone who lacks discipline. That's someone who hasn't learned how to sustain it. And that's a completely different problem, because starting is easy compared to staying consistent. Starting is emotional. It's driven by a spike: motivation, frustration, inspiration, even guilt. Something pushes you into action. But consistency is quiet. It's repetitive. It's built in the moments where nothing feels exciting, where there's no emotional push, where it's just you and the decision to either follow through or not. And that's where most people fall apart. Not because they can't do the work, but because they don't understand what consistency actually requires. They think it's about staying motivated. It's not. It's about staying committed when motivation disappears. And if you don't understand that difference, you'll keep repeating the same cycle. Start strong, feel good, lose momentum, stop, reset. And every time you go through that loop, it reinforces the same belief. I just need more discipline. But that belief is what's keeping you stuck, because it points you in the wrong direction. It makes you chase something you don't actually need, instead of fixing the real issue. And the real issue is this: you haven't built a system that survives resistance. You haven't trained yourself to act when it doesn't feel good. You haven't made consistency non-negotiable. And until you do that, nothing changes. So instead of asking yourself how to become more disciplined, start asking yourself a better question. How do I make sure I don't stop this time? Because that's the real game. Not starting, not doing it perfectly, not feeling motivated, just not stopping. And if you can solve that, everything else starts to fall into place. You have a consistency problem. You start things, and then you stop. Not because you're incapable, not because you don't know what to do, because you expect to feel like doing it every single time. And that's where everything breaks. Because motivation might get you started, but it will not carry you. Not long term. Not when it actually matters. And if you're being honest, you've seen this play out in your own life. You get a burst of energy. You decide you're going to change something. Start working out. Clean things up. Get your routine together. And for a few days, you're locked in. You feel good. You feel focused. You feel like this is finally it. And then something shifts. It's subtle at first. You don't feel like doing it one day. Just one. And your brain starts talking. It's fine. You've been consistent. You can take a day off. You'll get back to it tomorrow. Sounds harmless, sounds reasonable. And that's the problem, because that one decision starts a chain. Day 1 turns into day 3. Day 3 turns into a week. And before you realize it, you're right back where you started. Same habits, same patterns, same frustration. And now there's something else layered on top: guilt. Because you know you were on track. You know you were doing what you were supposed to do, and you let it slip. Again, that cycle is where most people live. They're not stuck because they can't start. They're stuck because they can't stay. And I've done this more times than I can count. Workouts especially. I'll get locked in. A few solid days, maybe even a full week. Feeling good, seeing progress, starting to build momentum. And then one day, I just don't feel like it. No big reason, no major obstacle, just resistance. And instead of pushing through it, I pause. I'll skip today. And that's the moment everything starts to fall apart. Because skipping once is never just once. It opens the door. Now the standard has changed. Now it's optional. Now your brain knows you're willing to break your own word. And once that happens, it gets easier to do it again. And again, until the habit is gone and you're back at the beginning. That's the pattern. And it's not about workouts. It's everything. Tasks, routines, anything that requires repetition. You don't fail because you can't do it. You fail because you stop doing it. And the reason you stop is because you're relying on how you feel. You're waiting for motivation to show up again. You're waiting to feel ready. You're waiting for it to feel easier. It won't. That's the truth people don't want to hear. Motivation is inconsistent. It shows up when it wants. It disappears when things get uncomfortable. And if your system depends on it, your results will always be inconsistent. That's why you can have days where you're locked in and weeks where you do nothing. Because your standard isn't based on action, it's based on feelings. So when the feeling disappears, the action disappears with it. That's the real issue. Not discipline, not knowledge, not capability. It's the way you're approaching consistency. You think consistency means doing something over and over again as long as you feel like doing it. That's not consistency. That's conditional effort. Real consistency is doing it when you don't feel like it. That's it. There's no secret. There's no hack. There's no system that removes that moment. That moment will always be there. The day you don't feel like showing up, the day you're tired, the day you'd rather do anything else, that's the day that actually matters. Because that's the day that determines whether the habit continues or dies. And most people fail that day, not because they can't do the work, because they choose not to. They negotiate, they justify, they delay, and every time they do, they reinforce the same pattern. I only do this when I feel like it. And once that becomes your identity, everything becomes inconsistent. So the shift has to happen at a different level. You don't fix this with motivation. You fix this with a rule, a simple one. The same way I had to fix avoidance. When resistance shows up, you don't analyze it. You don't sit with it. You don't give it time to grow. You move immediately. No negotiation, no debate, no waiting for a better moment. You act. Because the longer you wait, the easier it is to stop completely. And the moment you act, even if you don't feel like it, you break the pattern. That's how consistency is built. Not with perfect streaks, not with flawless execution. With decisions made in moments of resistance. That's it. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be optimal. You just need to not stop. Because once you stop, you reset the cycle. And starting over is always harder than continuing, every time. So the goal isn't to never miss. The goal is to never break the pattern. If you don't feel like working out, you still go. Maybe it's shorter, maybe it's not your best, but you show up. If you don't feel like doing the task, you still do it. Even if it's not perfect, even if it's just enough to move forward, because showing up maintains the standard. And once the standard is set, your identity starts to shift. You stop being someone who tries to be consistent and become someone who does what they said they were going to do, regardless of how they feel. That's the difference. And it's not flashy, it's not exciting, it's not something people want to hear, but it's the truth. Consistency is built in the moments you don't want to act, not the ones where everything feels easy. Those don't count. Anyone can show up when it feels good. That's not discipline, that's convenience. So if you keep starting and stopping, it's not because you're lazy. It's because your system is built on the wrong foundation. You're chasing motivation instead of enforcing action. And until that changes, nothing else will. You'll keep restarting, keep falling off, keep getting frustrated, and keep wondering why it never sticks. When the answer is simple, you're stopping. So here's what you do. You stop asking yourself, do I feel like doing this? That question is useless. It doesn't move you forward. It keeps you stuck. Replace it with something else. Is this what I said I was going to do? That's the only question that matters. Because once you answer that honestly, the next step is clear. You act, not because you feel like it, because you decided to. That's where consistency comes from, not emotion, decision. And the next time that moment shows up, because it will, you don't hesitate, you don't negotiate, you don't give it time, you shut it down, and you move. Because that one moment is where everything is decided. Not tomorrow, not next week, right there. So if this sounds familiar, good. That means you're aware of it now. Now you do something with it. Next time you don't feel like showing up, that's your test. Not when it's easy, when it's not. And if you pass that moment, you build something real, something that actually lasts. Not another short burst, not another restart. Consistency. So stop waiting to feel like it. Stop relying on motivation. And start acting based on what you said you were going to do. Because that's the difference between people who stay stuck and people who actually change. And it's a decision you make every single time.